Help. And you know what? Here's the thing, what you said is super great. Suspense is the first thing you have to develop as a writer. Because suspense, all suspense is a question that has to be answered, but isn't answered on this page. It's the only reason we turn the page is for that suspense. So horror definitely helps create it because like that's the whole like 50s thing. In the 50s, you either saw the monster up front or you never saw the monster. And the never saw the monster was always better because like she's been cut in half by something that looks like the pincer of a giant ant, a them. But it couldn't be a them because they don't exist. You're like, oh crap, there's giant ants. But you don't know for sure. So horror is great, and they used this like body that no one had ever seen cut in half that way before to create that suspense. So horror's, yeah, it's a good thing, but it's not necessary for suspense. There's other things. I mean, just knock-knock jokes are suspenseful in a horrible way. All right, what else? Yes, sir.
To give the reader a sense of...
We can circle back. Do you want to circle back?
No, just continue.
Okay. He's like, I secede my point. Yes.
Part of the human condition to like have that fear of the unknown, that you don't know, that feeling of something could go wrong, the reality of it.
Okay. Could someone close that door? Thank you. It's so loud at these ComiCons. Okay, so yeah, it's part of the human condition. And so it goes back to the relatableness of it. We like to see ourselves in the things we read. If it's utterly alien to us, it's put down the book and walk away. Which is why I don't see The Notebook. Because I've never had that kind of a treacly romance in my life. I have a great romance that surpasses The Notebook, so I have no need of it because it doesn't matter to me. So your answer is very good. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say horror can be important because it's not a feeling that's like, I don't think that people think about the feelings that come about with horror a lot until they're reading or watching something with horror.
Okay.
So it's kind of almost exciting.
It's not almost exciting. It's just straight up exciting. I mean, sometimes it's exciting in a way that makes you uncomfortable. But like, you know, you get in a car accident and you realize you could have died and the whole car is like caved. That's exciting. And it's horrific. Yeah, it's definitely an exciting thing. Okay, we'll take one more.
If the characters don't experience horror, then there's no action, and if there's no action, there's no story. Story.
I like that. That's kind of cool because we don't, that's great. Okay, I'll tell you a story to illustrate that because I'm a storyteller. Okay, so when I got married, I realized, listen up ladies, women are the secret to civilization's progress. Because men, here's a man, if I had an easy lounger chair, infinite bagel bites, and something to poop in nearby, I'd never move. Okay? But like I got married and I realized that was not appropriate anymore. In fact, a year later I tried to eat bagel bites and they were horrible. Okay? But I never would have moved, really, because we don't. We just kind of sit. Men do it more. And I'm going to be sexist. Like, men are way better at sitting. Sorry, ladies. So, but if we're comfortable, we don't move. And so horror is, yeah, it's something that can be used to move the characters. Okay, so here's the reason, though. All these are good. These are good reasons. There is a single reason that horror should be included in everything. Because horror is the defining moment where you realize you're going to lose the most precious thing to you. And that should come about in every story. Because it's only in a story where you're about to lose everything that you can regain everything. Or sometimes lose it. But those are the stories that matter. How many of you read Goodnight Moon for fun on your own? I'm going to give you a hand. Keep your hand down because it's creepy. If you do. Okay. No normal adult does. Has anybody ever read that one about the tree and the one about the old lady? I'll love you forever. I'll love you for always. Has anyone? Okay, so I still read that and I get all weird. It's about an old lady who dies. It's terrible and it's a kid's story, but I still read it because it matters. And like, I don't read it to my kids because it's super weird. I'll read you a bedtime story. My first kids have no respect for me because I did that. So horror defines this moment where you're going to lose everything. And in some stories, they do lose everything. And you know what? That sucks. And it's also part of life. moment. It's the moment that a story says, listen, this is where you learned something about yourself. Okay. So and in a romantic comedy, there should be horror. There's always that moment where the cute girl and the cute guy walk up to each other and don't say what they should say and walk away and realize they'll never get the other person. And it's a horrible, horrific moment because we've all been there too. Like, oh crap, if only I, for me, hadn't said the thing I said, we might still be together. Worked out again. I'm happy with my life. I really am. Just in case you watched it. So, horror is critical. Now, why is comedy? Comedy is also critical. Why? He's like, I'll give it a shot.
No. The suspense thing. Because, like, let's say the plot's thickening, build up, you're on the edge of your seat. Maybe it's like that mystery. You're just like, oh crap, I don't like something like bad, something might happen. But you have that comedic relief that kind of eases you down. Maybe it doesn't get you to that breaking point or to that point where you're like, I got to put down. It's too much for me, kind of thing. Comedy will kind of help you relieve it a little bit. Bring you back to more of like a relaxed level.
Okay.
Of like some stories, some things, especially like movies, they might build anxiety.
Okay, I'm going to zero in on one thing you said. You said a lot of good stuff, letting you off the hook. I'm going to pick on the thing that didn't.
Cool.
Here's the thing, like when your car, one of the tires pops, you don't swerve off the road going, thank goodness for the other three! You focus on the one that didn't pop right, okay? So I'm a very popped tire kind of guy. All right, seriously though, you said a lot of really good stuff, and I'm going to actually come back and reference some of it. Here's the one thing that I have a question about. You say it's kind of, it relaxes you, it gives you a relaxing moment. How many comedies do you go to and really want to be relaxed at the end?
I mean, that's pure comedy. Not like, if we're talking about a story that has horror and comedy in the mix.
No, you're, hey,
But
man,
pure comedy.
this is good thinking. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to come back to something in a couple minutes that you said that was awesome. Okay, I would submit to you that if comedy relaxes a moment, it's actually not done its job. And most people, here's me being a nuts and bolts guy. Okay, most people do say that. Like whenever I hear human condition or words like denouement or climax or rising action, I always like get a little scared because my dad's a college professor. I'm like, oh, there's somebody educated here. Educated people scare me. Yeah, I was a lawyer, and educated people terrify me because I'm not that kind of a guy. I just like make hamburgers, So I am going to come back to something you said that's super awesome. Now, we've defined comedy, we've defined horror. I haven't told you why comedy is critical because it would steal the surprise. Wow, they left just right in the middle of it. It would steal the surprise. It's okay. I absolve you. Here's the question. There are two differences. Comedy and horror are the same exact thing, except for two details. There are right answers to this one. Anyone want to take a shot? Spidey.
Is there relatability? Everyone's been in a horror situation. Close but no cigar?
So close. No, so close.
Warmer?
Is it more of the feeling that you get from it, though?
No.
Because, like, waiting for Godot, it's, they're stuck.
Yeah.
And it's dreadful. It's a horror. But what they do during that horror is
Kind of delightful. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? That would be the most answered response. Like, one's funny and one's scary, But it's not that. Those are effects of the differences. And the effects are startlingly similar, actually. We'll talk about that.
You answered it.
Okay. You.
The way that your brain responds to them with different chemical reactions.
Okay, so here's something interesting. Again, that's like, well, one's funny and one's not
One
funny.
makes you scream, one makes you laugh.
Right, except for, you know what laughing is? It's a socially acceptable alternative to screaming. It is. So, good answer. You set up my line.
Comedy gives you the chance to laugh about the things that aren't so funny. You laugh about it, like, it could be a multitude of things, but just, it gives you the opportunity to laugh about something that may not be funny, but Like, when you go to a comedian, they talk about real life things that happen, and people laugh about it, even though maybe the thing's not so funny, but people laugh about it anyway.
Okay. It really is. It's never really funny.
Well, you know, like.
No, it never is. We'll talk, you hit something important. I saw one more hand. We'll take one more shot.
Well, it kind of along that same line, what I always would tell my kids when we go see the movies. And I'd say, it's only funny because it's in the movies. And it's happening to somebody else. It's not funny anymore when you start doing that at home.
Okay, here's a great line I love. Tragedy is when I cut my finger. Comedy is when you fall in an open manhole and die. Not you, but you were there. It could have been any you. Now I feel bad. I'm going to get beaten up afterwards. So, yes.
What about perception?
Okay, that's great. That's great. Here's what the differences are. The easiest way to remember it. Look at my nose. Like I've only referred to them none times this whole time, so why I'm carrying it around, I don't know. It's lighting and lens length. Those are the differences. Okay. I think in movie terms, I write movies. All my books I turn into screenplays as I do them. So I think in very cinematic terms. Come on in, come on in. You'll never know the answers to certain important questions, but you're welcome. Don't tell them. So they're lighting. They're lighting and lens length. And what you guys said, touch on those. Okay, so we're going to talk about each one. First of all, lighting. What color are horror movies? Dark. They're dark and they're blue. Because guess what? Blue is a color that works in the dark. It's why airline guys have it in their cockpits all the time. It's a function of how light works. Horror movies can pick up more stuff if they're blue. Because they're in the dark. What color are comedies?
Orange.
Right?
Yellow.
Yellow and orange. Absolutely. Why?
It's opposite of blue.
Okay. It's sort of like, why do I like the orange? Because you like oranges. Yeah, it is the opposite. It is the opposite. Yes?
So one's sad, one's happy.
Okay. Here's the answer. That's not a bad answer.
I'm just thinking sad because it's blue.
Yeah. No, it does. It touches those things
But it's
too.
sad.
But the reason for the darkness is because if you can see everything, it means it's not happening to you. Okay, who here's ever kissed someone? Please. I know it's a dangerous question for certain groups of nerds. I'm sure everyone's kissed, even your mom. Okay, that counts. I kiss my mom. It's still cool, darn it. So when you kiss, not on the lips though, because no. But when you kiss someone, how much of them do you see? Really? You don't see, and if you're doing it right, you close your eyes, you don't see anything. This is not cool, by the way. Okay? Just for those who didn't see it. Yeah, that's weird. Don't do that. Ruined so many dates for me. I won't say if I did it or she did, but I know. Ruined the suspense. So part of the reason kissing and other stuff is so intimate is because you can't see anything. When you meet a new person, you generally do this to them. How's it going? You know what that means? You can't hit me. And I see all of you. Okay, it does. It really does. It's a way of... She's like, do it now, do it! It was a great panel until it turned all Hunger Games. As soon as you can't see something, it's scary. Which is why we don't kiss everybody. I mean, aside from personal space issues, like you don't go up to the aforementioned rapey guy and be like, nice to meet you. I'm going to come in close where I can't see any of this going on. Okay? So the less you see, the more in it you are. If you see something way over there, it's not you at all. Okay? And that goes to lens length. So, these are the same exact thing. By lens length, I mean horror movie, person, and they're backing up, right? And what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen, right? Because the shot's right here. What's going to happen next? And they're going to turn around and the bad guy's there, right? and it gets to the point where it's like a trope. You go, they're going to turn around and the bad guy's going to be there and gut them like a fish. You can see it coming. It's not new, and they do it anyway. And it's not because people think you're such gigantical morons you'll buy it this time. It's because that's the only way you can play it. Because they can't show you and still have you be that person. You have to be the person in a horror story. Not just experiencing the fear and stuff, which is important. You have to actually be that person. So, horror movie, they back up, and for once it's not a bad guy, but they go down and they fall back over this tremendous hill. You've all seen like scary movies where that happens. Somebody falls and they get all cut up and it's like, and it falls them all the way down. Okay, same situation in a comedy. Long shot, bright, and he hits the rail, which you saw 17 miles ago, and he falls down the hill, and this is the shot. Lens length. Why? Because if we laugh at the close-up one, seeing all the blood and stuff, we're not funny people, we're a-holes. Horror and comedy actually have almost exactly the same subject matter, which is something else someone said, you know, they're not funny. Is that guy falling down that hill really that funny? How many of you have ever read a book or seen a movie where you know it's hilarious because you watch the whole thing like this? Like I showed my kids Dirty Rotten Scoundrels last night, which is a fantastic movie. It's about people one-upping each other. And I have kids with very like tender, kind hearts, so they take after not me. And both of them just kept doing this. And I couldn't be sure if they were laughing or crying. They were like, this is hilarious. But they couldn't even look because it was so uncomfortable. That's comedy. Okay? Let me address something you said. I was going to say this, so it's good you raised your hand. You talked about the chemical changes. Okay. Horror and comedy are one of 3 genres that depend on a physical reaction. Do you know what the third one is? Porn! Nobody ever came out of the Notebook all hot and sweaty like, oh yeah. Oh, okay. Was that a 10 or a 5? 10. 10, okay. They're like waving, I'm going, hey, nice to see you here. Set me up for another Van Halen riff or something. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they actually set up really similar physiochemical reactions, and they have to come out. And one of them comes out as a scream, and the other one comes out as a laugh. But they're very, very similar base reactions, which are, oh my gosh! That's the base reaction for both of them. And one of them's, oh my gosh, this is happening to me. And the other one is, oh my gosh, I'm so glad this isn't happening to me.
Someone gets hurt, then it's hilarious.
Yeah.
As long as you're not the person being hurt.
Not me. Yeah, totally. Anybody ever see somebody hurt and be like, oh, say a joke, that'll help everything. And then you get punched, right? Because nothing's funny to them, they're hurt. Okay? Now, why is this important?